The microphone on? You can hear me? Ron, can you hear me? Okay. I'd like to call the committee meeting to order, which we don't normally do, but I'd like to start off with the pledge of allegiance of the flag.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, tonight's agenda, we're going to start off with personnel because Mike has to be someplace else. But before that, the president of New York Chiropractic College, President Meston, will make an address about his college and his plans, hopeful plans of reopening. Welcome, President.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have the college's attorney, Mr. Lou DeLorenzo, on speakerphone, just to let you know. So if he needs to interact, he certainly will. I am here tonight because of New York Chiropractic College being in a unique situation from other colleges by having an academic year run on trimesters, which means we go year-round. We don't have a summer break. Our hands-on curricular requirements, the accumulation of incomplete grades by our students not being able to complete hands-on training, the space available to us to repurpose large areas of our campus, and our completed safety and tactical plans, we are seeking assistance for a slow, controlled reopening. Our reopening would only offer the hands-on components of our curriculum to those students most at risk. All lecture material will still be taught online, and traditional classroom space will not be used. I understand you have copies of our safety and tactical plans. I am here in person on behalf of our students to help protect their investment in their education to be future healthcare providers and who now face uncertainty in the continuity of their education and possible hardship. I am here tonight on behalf of our faculty who want to uphold our mission and provide the hands-on education to our students in a safe, controlled manner. I understand the college has a role to play in the safety of those who live in Seneca County, and I believe our plans represent best practices. As the college has a significant economic footprint in Seneca County, I am here also on behalf of community members who look to a safe reopening of our economy. Thank you. Is there any questions? Lou, do you have anything?
Why don't you ask Lou to speak first?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can they hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Listen, I just want to thank everyone for allowing us to put this on the agenda and to make it clear, and I appreciate Mike's remarks. What we're looking for, we have met with Senator Helming, and she is willing to advance our request for an exception. We believe that we have unique circumstances here. We have about 600 students on a campus that easily could handle more than 1,000. As you'll see from the plan that we've advanced, we are interested in taking the dining hall space, the athletic center space, and creating the need for very small groups of people to receive this on-site training, which is clinical. The plan, after it would slowly be implemented, at the end of it, there would be about 228 students that we would want on campus, not the 568 that are currently involved in on-site learning. The only ones we're trying to get in, frankly, in July, August, September, is so they can complete this clinical work, which they've had to get incompletes for during this entire remote session. We've taught all the online courses like every other college remotely. The problem is our students can't complete the educational requirements to be licensed and to graduate without getting their clinical instruction. So we've been able to take all these buildings on campus and cut down very, very small groups of people that would get the clinical instruction. It's a very limited group. Obviously, for tracing purposes and other protections that are in our plan, it would be very easy to trace things. There's a small group of students, I think about 45 or 48, that would live on campus in housing that's set up for 161 students. So where 5 people would live together with 5 bedrooms, there would only be 2 people in that space. it would be very easy to trace future problems or exposure because the community is closed. This isn't like Walmart or Costco's or any of the big organizations. It's not like a casino. It's not like anything that's large where a number of people from the public would be coming in. It would be difficult to figure out who got exposed. These small groups, they're not gatherings. These very, very small groups of people that would interact would be very easy to trace who someone came into contact with. So what we're looking for, Senator Helming said that it would be very important to her in trying to get the advisory board to assist us in getting an exception as soon as possible, whether it's June, July, August. It would be important to have the local government authorities approve that request. I understand secondhand, and I understand Ms. Swinehart is on the phone, so she can speak for herself, but I understand secondhand that the Public Health Department is not recommending this, but it's not refusing to recommend it because it's an unsafe plan. In fact, I believe that Ms. Swinehart thinks the plan's very appropriate for a phase one operation. It encompasses all the latest best practices. We've gone over this plan with a fine-tooth comb. She had a couple of suggestions concerning the people that may need an accommodation under the Americans with Disabilities Act. We've added that suggestion. I think almost all of her questions or concerns relate to the fact that the education, on-site education, is in phase 4 of the governor's plan. I can't speak for the people that put that plan together, but I think this is the way it falls out. Everybody, and that education plan deals with public school education as well as colleges and universities. They're all in phase 4. Why are they in phase 4? Because this semester is a lost cause. All the students are being taught remotely in public schools. Even if they weren't being taught publicly, the 1 million+ students in New York City, that school is closed and the parents aren't back to work yet with all the child care issues and everything anyway and all the exposure. So the schools are gone for this semester. He's already announced that summer school is not going to be taught in person because it can be taught remotely. And so it's in phase 4 because the earliest the schools should be worrying about opening at the earliest is probably the fall semester. Everybody's written off this semester, and there's nothing really going on in the summer except summer school, which can be taught remotely, and so it's the fall. The problem is our students go year-round, and we have this clinical obligation that they have to be taught. They can't be taught remotely, the clinical component of the courses. So I don't think, but Ms. Swinehart can speak for herself, I don't think the objection was this is an unsafe plan. I think the opposite. I think she commented on the fact that it was a very good plan. But the governor has indicated education is phase 4, so she's not prepared to recommend the plan only because it's not in phase 4. We know it's in phase 4. We're going to be requesting an exception eventually from the governor's office. My understanding is Mr. Duffy and Mr. Esposito on the Empire State Development Corporation can present requests for exceptions and approve reopening. All we're asking for is assistance from you in saying that you support our request for this exception. I don't think approval by this body, I'll be glad to be corrected by somebody, I don't think approval by this body authorizes us to open, and that's not what we're doing. We're waiting for the governor's office, and if we don't get the approval, we're not going to violate the law and open without the approval. So the assistance we're requesting is support for opening, for presenting our plan to seek whatever exception we need to get the college open, or at least to be at the front of the line when colleges and universities start to be approved for opening, because our needs are special, they're unique, and we believe they're safe. That's it, Mr. Chairman, and thank you again, everyone, for your time and looking at our documents and listening to what we had to say.
Yes, Lou,
And Mike and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Mr. Farnwetter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. being intimately familiar with that campus, I was superintendent of buildings and grounds for Humphreys and Hardings when they converted it into New York Chiropractic College. There's plenty of room for what they have proposed, and I think we should do everything in our power to help them open this up, because they are in a very unique situation where they have to have hands-on training. These aren't 18-year-old college kids. They already, most of them have a degree. They know what they want to do in life, and a lot of them are married, have kids, and to just put their life on hold has got to be devastating for them. So I think I would make a resolution in support of their plan to reopen.
You ask the governor to expedite it, okay? During the regular board meeting, you can do that if it's still better. Mr. Lott?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sort of against this. My first question would be, when those students come here, where the heck are they coming from? And are they going to self-isolate for 2 weeks once they get here? So we have a chance to see if they have any problems or not. And then I'm sure the college is doing a great job of keeping on campus, keeping the classroom. But I worry about nighttime, weekends. Where are they going then? Are they going to stay on the college campus? Are they going to be out moving around the community? I mean, they are stage 4. It is still education. So that's just my concern.
Chairman?
Yes, Mr. Sarai.
My experience is the vast majority of these students are still in Seneca Falls, so I don't think they went anywhere. They were finishing courses up online, and many of them are still in Seneca Falls. The town of Seneca Falls will be considering this motion resolution a week from tonight, June 2nd, and as town supervisor, I'm going to recommend that we approve it because it is a unique situation, and the chiropractic college has been an integral part of the county. So we're talking about pretty responsible people here, and I've looked over the plan. I don't know if anybody's had the opportunity to look over the plan. It's a very comprehensive plan and well thought out. So I would support any motion that would, at the regular meeting, that move it forward to the governor's office.
Okay. President or Lou, do you want to address Mr. Lott's comments about quarantining people if they've been away and all that?
Sure, thank you. I'll start, and Lou certainly can chime in. We have told our students that we're going to give them 2 weeks, a week, whatever it may be, for them to return. That is certainly something that we could do, is have them self-quarantine during that period of time before they actually start classes. As was mentioned, though the students are more mature and stable, if you will, than undergraduate students, and this is something that them going around or outside of Seneca Falls is not something that's of a big concern, but we certainly are going to hold them accountable, and as part of the plan, we certainly will be checking people every day when they come in. If they leave campus, they get checked again. This is something that is a very controlling plan. Lou, do you have anything on that?
Yes, just a couple of things. I appreciate the comment. Valid concern, but it's one that's really been taken care of in phase 1 and phase 2. All the businesses that have opened under phase 1, no matter where the employees have been, they come back and they certify what they've done, where they've been, have they been exposed to anyone, what places have they visited, and then they're tested. I mean, we're entering phase 2 soon, I think May 30th or something, which includes the reopening of my law firm in about 9 offices, except the one I run in New York City. So we are not quarantining those employees, no matter where they've been. I got several attorneys that work for us that I talked to today. They're in Michigan, where their parents live. When we open the office, the phase 1 requirement, and it's basically going to be the same in the template for all 4 of these phases, people are going to be allowed to go back to their lives. And what they're going to have to do is be tested, their temperature taken under those requirements, and certify what they've done and where they've been and what symptoms have they had. But that 2-week quarantine for these students would be a different requirement that's being done with anyone that's returning. And you know, there was a comment I saw secondhand of, you know, there's going to be eventually 228 people on this location, but it's almost 300 acres of land, and you can see from the maps that we provided how far apart and how big these buildings are. We're not going to be serving meals on campus. The dining halls are going to be closed and converted to clinical use classrooms to provide the proper spacing. There's not going to be gatherings of more than 10 people. There's going to be very controlled environments of clinical instruction. People are going to be tested. Their temperatures are going to be taken constantly. We're going to know whether somebody's got a problem, and we're going to know who they had contact with, at least on the campus. It's going to be a pretty controlled environment. It's not going to be like, frankly, people coming in and out of Walmart, people coming in and out of Costco. I don't think the risk or the danger, frankly, I think is going to be less than some businesses that are being opened in phase one.
Okay, thank you, Lou. Anybody else have any questions for President or Lou? Mitch, as a control board member, do you have any comments before I ask Vicki to speak? No. Okay, Vicki, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Would you like to comment?
Yes.
Okay.
I did get the plan. I just got the last set just a little while ago. And yes, the plan, I think, is well thought out. They thought of a lot of things, and when the time is appropriate for the college to open, I think they've got most things in there that at this point in time is appropriate. Whether anything changes between now and then, I don't know. I am opposed to this. There is a phased-in reapproach to reopening. There's a reason for that. We still don't know what is going to happen with the disease and whether we're going to get an outbreak. That's why we're doing a gradual reopening. And I understand they're not bringing all their students back, but 228 students. I realize they are unique in the fact that they have trimester, and most of the colleges and universities are semesters. I understand that. And yes, they have students, they're professional students. But all of our other colleges also have professional programs. We have nursing programs. We have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. We have pharmacy programs. We have medical doctor programs. None of those colleges are allowed to have those students back in either. I'm not against the college, but I just don't think it's appropriate at this time. I think it's premature. We're still in phase one. We still have phase two to go. We really need to see where this disease goes. I'm just concerned that it's not appropriate at this time.
Well, Vicki, the governor said yesterday or the day before that they might expedite and move up some of the phases or parts of the phases. The governor allows this to be moved up. Would you then support it?
Well, if the governor said that the program can go into place, then yes. Do I necessarily think I want this to be rushed through? Absolutely not. I am very concerned, and I tend to be conservative, and that's fine. But when you're talking about the health and safety of our residents, our visitors, our students, everybody else, I'd rather be on the side of caution. I'm just concerned with what will happen with this if we go in too fast.
Okay. Anybody have any questions for Vicki?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I have greatest respect for Ms. Swinehart. I negotiated some labor contracts with her for the health department, and she's the one that approved the opening of our clinic, which I appreciate as well, where clinical instruction is taking place now. I got just one question that I'd like you to pose to her. I don't want to cross-examine her, but if you think this is an appropriate question, I would love to have you ask it. I just want to know if Ms. Swinehart has specific reasons why she thinks this is unsafe, or she's deferring to the governor's office because of the phase 4 decision, which we don't all really know why it was put in phase 4. We just know it's in phase 4, which frankly, as I indicated, works out conveniently because most schools aren't worried about anything until the fall because they can teach remotely. Is she comfortable if the governor's office allows this reopening, that she doesn't have an independent safety concern based on the plan itself.
I still have concerns with the number of people that are going to be congregating. I mean, even when you look at the athletic center and gymnasium or the occupancy center, you think, you know, you're going to have 20 tables with 40 students in one area right there, and then in the dining hall, 30 students, 20 students, but still, at this point in time, that certainly goes against the congregation, and again, I'm just concerned that it's going to go too fast, and we gotta wait to see what happens. We have got to wait. It's premature at this point to say, in 2 weeks we may be there, in 4 weeks we may be there. Nobody has that crystal ball, and I just think it's better to move slowly than quickly, and I think this is too quick.
Do you understand that these are going to be staggered classroom situations, so everybody's not in there at the same time?
Correct. I understand that.
And do the numbers in a building like Walmart bother you when that many people congregate for shopping?
Do they bother me? Yeah, I'm not happy. I don't go to Walmart any more than I have to. But I make sure I have my mask, and anybody I'm around is going to have a mask on. But, you know, unfortunately, the reality of the situation is, you know, they are a grocery store, they are mandatory, you know, an essential service, and people have to utilize them.
Okay. Okay, and we realize, and they're not taking any temperatures or requiring any verifications at Walmart. They come in untested, no temperature taking, and it doesn't matter where their license plate is from, right?
I have a question.
Okay, let Cindy get a question in here.
Yes. Usually you can hear me. So basically, I think that we've heard from both parties, and I think, you know, Vicky's made her point, and I don't feel like she should be questioned any further. What I would like to ask is, I understand chiropractic, and I get it that you're trimester, and you have 228 students. When you have to do your hands-on, is it getting people from the outside to come in, or do you work on each other? Do you keep the 228 people, or do you bring in people from the outside that want to volunteer to be worked on?
That's a very good. Go ahead, Mike.
The students work on each other.
So nobody else will be coming in from the
No.
public? Okay.
No.
Which, to me, that's good, because I didn't know if you offered
Yes.
volunteers to be brought in,
No.
because then they leave and then they go trailing wherever they're going to go.
Right.
Okay, very
No.
good.
And no, that's a good question. And the fellow student is face down on the table.
Yeah.
The other student walks up to them. When that student is done, they wipe the table down.
Yeah.
They have masks on. They follow all the best practices in terms of the process. There are people that can come in from the outside to the clinic where, you know, adjustments are done
Yeah.
by students and the clinicians, but that's considered and has been approved by Ms. Swinehart. That's considered emergency chiropractic care. So the same process is used, and those people are from the outside.
Yeah, but
But
those people would be like what the clinics offer for physical therapy. They were closed
Yes.
for a certain time. Now they're deemed
Yes.
essential. And you have PT clinics that are out in the community. They are up and running with certain
Exactly.
stipulations. Okay. Like
Exactly.
you said.
So
Like
they
you
come
said.
in, they pay the fee, they have insurance or don't have insurance,
Yep.
and they're treated. And they're
That's correct.
treated at the clinic.
Correct, with limited amount
Yes.
of people coming into that clinic.
That's true, yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Barnhart.
Can I ask why the rush back into action, and sort of what is your working, I don't want to call it a backup plan, because right now I assume you're planning for phase 4. So can you give us an idea of your trimester start dates, what the rush is back to action, and what your plan is if the governor doesn't expedite your request?
So I'll start.
Why don't you explain where we were when it hit and the trimester we were in and the backup on the incompletes?
Sure. So what is happening is when we were mandated to go into remote education, we had about a month left of our winter trimester. So what had happened was we eliminated all the hands-on educational components, and we pushed forward all the lecture materials in a remote method. What happened then is the student receives an incomplete grade, which basically says is that when they come back to campus, they will be able to complete that incomplete grade. It's okay to have 1 trimester's or maybe 2 trimesters worth of incomplete grades, but this does a great disservice to the students and the educational process if it accumulates over a long period of time. So what has happened now is that we have re-engineered our curriculum so that the lectures, once again, are being pushed forward and then not having the hands-on material, so the students will get another incomplete at the end of this trimester, so now they'll have 2 trimesters of incompletes. There is tremendous uncertainty of whether or not we will be mandated as all institutions to go back into remote learning in the fall. If that does happen, then our students will have so many incompletes, and it's almost like a bubble in their curriculum where they cannot go forward anymore, and then therefore we will most likely need to cease operations until there will be a time where we can have hands-on education. So right now, our backup plan ultimately, hopefully, is in the worst-case scenario that in stage 4 will still happen sometime this summer, and we need to have a couple weeks this summer to where we get these incomplete grades cleaned up for the students, because if we are mandated to go to remote education in the fall, then that would be pretty bad.
And what we don't know is we don't have any assurance. We have no assurance. We have no assurance that Phase 4, as it generally applies to other institutions, there's a chance the governor says, look, if you're a college or university, you have to teach remotely in the fall as well. We don't know what's going to happen. And we believe that we owe it to our students and the community to try to get off of this list, or not wait for events to overtake us. We think we should be proactive, and we think that based on everything we've seen, we have as safe a plan as the other businesses that are open.
Let me follow up. Yes. You'll be in the same boat with med schools and dental schools and everyone else that can't do hands-on education in that sense. Do you have an opportunity to do any sort of distant learning? Can your students apprentice with practitioners right now? Do you have an alternate way of getting hands-on education for your students if you aren't able to teach?
For our senior students, we do. So they can go ahead.
Well, yeah. So there's a requirement that before you graduate and be able to take the exam to be licensed, you must have performed 250 adjustments. The education department, in light of the virus, lowered that requirement to 150. So we have reached out to local practitioners, our faculty members that have practices, as well as with Ms. Weinhardt's approval, reopening the clinic so that we can have these seniors get their 150 adjustments in. But it's not going to, and so the practitioner who supervises the adjustment, that's allowed, but not the techniques that are taught in all these classes that lead up to your ability to actually do the adjustment. We have to have trained teachers and classroom hours and on-site location that we can't farm out to anybody. It's got to be done. It's got to be done by our experts, our professors that teach those techniques. It's too much full-time teaching to ask a precept who can supervise, who can let a student who's been trained for 10 trimesters or whatever it is, who's been trained in doing techniques the proper way. It's one thing to use their office under their supervision to perform a technique that they've been taught to do adjustments. But we can't, those people aren't able to quit their practices full-time and teach our students the techniques that are required in the classroom, the accredited classroom teaching of the on-site material. We just can't, it can't be done by anything else but people that are authorized to teach it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions? Yes, Mr. Gross?
So I have a question regarding the 45 that will be there without food service. Would they be required to prepare their meals in their dorm by themselves, or would they combination that and eat out, order in? Yes, there's a question.
Go ahead, Mike, you want to answer?
Well, they're just reacting just like everyone else that would be in an apartment. So they would purchase their food, they would prepare it, they'd bring their lunch, they would go out to restaurants, they would take out, all those sorts of things. Thank you.
Any more questions? I'd like to close with a statement from Rich Daniels, the president of the Purdue University. He said over the weekend, "We don't open in August, it would be an unacceptable breach of duty." Talking about, that's 45,000 students that are ready to come back in August. So I think I agree with you. I think, especially in your situation, you're going to be extra careful, extra safe. A lot safer than many other essential businesses. We could be leading by example. So I would be supporting that. And I hope Rich will be supporting it too. Okay. Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Listen, everybody, thanks for your time. Vicki, thanks for the attention you gave the plan. We appreciate it. Thanks, all of you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Good meeting.
Okay, next up, Mike Ferrara on personnel.
Well, thanks, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for letting me go first. I have to host a meeting for our heritage group in Seneca Falls tonight, so thank you. We have 8 issues. 5 of them are related to our meeting with the vacancy committee prior to the committee meetings that we're conducting right now. So issue number 1, Board of Supervisors appoint personnel officer as interim risk manager. Have a motion for that, please?
Let them catch up and find the page around.
I'm sorry. Pages are not numbered.
I know I see that.
He's at the back.
Oh, it's towards the back, yeah.
PER number 1 on the top of the right.
Okay, yeah.
I'll second or make a motion on this.
Mr. Lot, you're
Motion made, second.
chairman now, okay. You'll be running the meeting. Okay.
Dave Hayes seconded. Any discussion? As you can read there, it's required to have a risk manager in place for the operation to continue. Chris, anything you want to add to that?
The only thing is, for the Greater Tompkins County Municipality Consortium, they have to have somebody that's actually appointed into the risk manager position to be above board, if you will. So this resolution would allow them to have documentation that I can be the contact for the consortium.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. So carried. Thank you. Lost my glasses. Our second issue is Board of Supervisors approves hiring freeze waiver for case supervisor grade. Again, this is something that the vacancy committee approved earlier. Can I have a second for that motion, please? Second. Discussion. If you have any questions, I think we can answer those for you.
Is this a refill?
This one is...
This would be a refill with abolishment of the current temporary position.
Okay, any further discussion? I knew I left them someplace. Oh, boy. That's too good. We're not on TV, are we? No, holy moly. I found my glasses, they were on my head. Thanks to Chairman Heisen. So we have a second, and all in favor of this waiver, say aye, please. Aye. That is so carried. Our third issue is Board of Supervisors approve hiring freeze waiver for 3 part-time cleaners. That will be, we decided that the vacancy committee with Mr. Stuck that we would create 2 full-time positions versus 3 part-time positions. Very difficult to find part-time people, and he felt very strongly if we could do 2 full-time, it's $1 extra an hour.
versus 1180, I think it goes to 1280. But he felt very comfortable that he could fill the full-time positions. Also wants to get them started as soon as possible to train them. Obviously, we all know when we get back open 100%, the building is going to have to be cleaned at a different rate than normal operation. So there's a lot that has to happen in that situation. So this issue, this motion would be a waiver to waiver increase for 2 full-time cleaners. One second, please.
Second.
Discussion. Chris, you want to go ahead on that one?
The only thing that we would have to add in there is that we're going to create 2 full-time cleaners, only because they currently have part-time on the books, so we'll have to create them to open it up to be filled.
So I do have a question.
Yes.
So you're gonna do 3 part-time and go to 3 part-time and go to 2 full-time. Are you also including the difference in insurances then and benefits? Somebody said it would be $1 more, but
Yeah, it's $1 more per hour. Definitely, obviously, full-time employees get benefits versus part-time employees.
so it would be more than $1 an hour.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Just so everyone's aware of that. But
No, I mean,
I can see where it's hard to hire part-time.
correct. And we asked Mr. Stock if there was money available in his budget, which there is, and Chris said the positions have not been filled for quite a long time, so money is there.
Mr. Chairman? Mr. Wagner, did you say we'd have to create the positions?
We would have to create positions for that, yes.
This resolution is set to go as is for the board meeting. Shall we hold off on it, or shall we create a whole new resolution? Can we amend it tonight, right here? And how to create this going on? Put you in the grades. I'm ready.
Give it 1 second. So it would be creating 2 full-time cleaners at grade 1 of the CSEA grade. CBA. CSEA CBA, yep. That's it.
Can you tell me what grade 1 starts at? Sorry. Or if not, don't worry about it. Maybe you have it right there.
Grade 1 starts at 1180.
1180.
Mr. Chairman of the board meeting. Which chairman is that?
Which chairman are you talking to?
The only chairman in my room. I'm sorry, Chairman Nelson. Chairman Mike, I'm sorry.
Yes. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I heard you talking to Chairman Nelson, and can you remind me of that one meeting, this resolution out there, so when you guys pass it, it's not the same one. You're going to be passing a completely different resolution.
Mr. Edmund, should I table this, can we change the language now, or no?
The language can be changed. I mean, you're in committee, you've discussed it, you want to go to a 2 full versus 2 part-time. It just has to reflect that in the ordinance.
You can all change it yourselves right now.
Yeah, I mean, if we can change it, let's change it.
Amendment right now, since you've already got on the floor. I'll make a motion to amend the motion, so 2 full-time in both places where it's listed.
I second that. Any discussion on the motion to amend the motion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? That's carried.
Now you gotta vote on the motion amended.
And the motion to hire 2 full-time employees, cleaners, at grade 1. Got a motion for that, please?
I'm sorry, it's to create and fill 2 full-time cleaners. Just want to make sure it's crystal clear that we're creating and filling.
To create 2 full-time cleaners, correct? Grade 1.
Grade 1.
Got it. Okay. So you got a second, I think?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? Without further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Our next issue is Board of Supervisors approved a hiring freeze waiver for accountant one position. Again, this was approved at the vacancy meeting. Have a motion for the waiver, please. Motion on the Hayes motion. Discussion. Okay, Chris.
So this one, I believe, was due to promotion. So this opening became available due to a promotion. An individual went into a fiscal services manager, so we're just trying to backfill the vacancy.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor of this hiring freeze waiver for an accountant one position, say aye, please. Aye. Opposed? So carried. Our next issue is Board approved hiring freeze waiver for grant management specialist. Have a motion for that, please.
Did we skip number 4? Skip number 4.
I skipped number 4. I did. Let's go to number 4 then. Board of Supervisors approved a hiring freeze waiver for accountant clerk position. Again, this was approved at the vacancy committee. For a motion for that, please. Second? Second. So second. Okay, discussion. Chris?
So this position was previously voted on and approved to hire. We had an individual located and identified to come on right before the COVID crisis hit. But because it hit, we found that it wasn't feasible to bring that person on at that moment in time. So now we're asking to fill the position now.
Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That is so carried. Our next issue is to approve a hiring freeze waiver for grant management specialist. Can I have a motion, please? Motion. Second? Is there a second? Second. Second. Mr. Lott, thank you. Discussion. Chris?
So similar to the account clerk, the grant management specialist specifically for ILS was previously approved to be hired. We had candidates available. They had already applied. We would like to start the process as this one actually has a grant funding attached to it at 50%.
This is to maximize that grant as much as possible, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Any questions or further discussion?
I got a question, Mike. Would this grant management specialist working in one department? Could they write grants, or look for grants, or just manage one department?
So from my understanding, I'll defer to Haley, it does branch out. Specifically, it is for the indigent legal services. That's what the grant money is coming from. But I do know that, I believe it's planning, finance, and the indigent legal services are going to be utilizing it primarily.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor? Aye. Aye. That's so carried. Our next issue, Board of Supervisors approves the defunding and abolition of select positions within the Department of Human Services. Can I have a motion, please? Motion. Second? Second. Discussion.
So similarly on here, our Commissioner of Human Services has gone through, she originally had a 5-year restructuring plan for her division. Unfortunately, there's been talks about a potential, at minimum, 20% reduction in state aid for certain programs that her division has. The listed within the resolved are positions that are have been identified to be abolished. Those that were encumbered, meaning individuals currently in the position, have been notified as of this previous Friday. Any individual that has civil service rights to bump and/or retreat to a previous position that they held, they have been given the opportunity to advise us and have advised us at this point. So we're going through the motions to figure out exactly which position they're entitled to, as well as if there's any individual that would be bumped out of that per civil service laws.
So this potentially has some trickle-down effect for our personnel?
It's very few. We have 2 positions that would have a trickle-down effect, yes.
Would, so some of these positions, some of these people you're saying too, they could possibly have vacation time coming and et cetera at the rate that they are currently working under, okay? If they take a new position, how would that work? Would their rate of compensation be this, where they earned the money, earned the time, or would it be under their new position?
It would be under the new position. At this moment in time, if they're laid off due to this abolition, then they actually get paid out a severance per the CBA agreement, or the collective bargaining agreement with CSEA. They'll get any accrued and unused vacation time at their rate of pay at this moment in time. If they were to, so let me be clear on that, that's just vacation. Some people have comp, accrued sick time and all that. That does not get paid out upon termination. If they utilize their civil service rights to retreat back to a position that they previously held, that now all of those accruals now go into the bank that they're currently within.
Is it a contractual thing?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so I guess I'm just asking, is it a past practice, or that's, which we're making a decision that, what I'm trying to say is I think it's only fair if I'm working in a position earning a certain rate, but now I'm forced to go to a position, a different grade, a different position, and it's going to be a lower rate. Shouldn't I be able to earn the rate that I was working when I use those times, or get paid out on those times?
So I understand, I don't know, is that somebody chiming in? I understand the position on that. I think I would also go as far as stating that, you know, we're talking about somebody that's potentially being laid off. They have a civil service protection that basically affords them an opportunity to maintain a position. So if they were to get laid off, they would have automatically gotten paid out. And I get it, they would potentially carry over that rate, but because they have the opportunity to stay employed and carry over that accrued time and the sick time and the comp time that the others aren't getting paid out, I think it does even out at that point. Again, we're not trying to make people whole within a layoff. We're just trying to make sure that they are afforded the same laws that everybody else would. And another notion is we have like a sick bank donation. If I were to donate my sick time, my sick hours, they aren't calculated at my rate.
Right.
You know, they just get those hours.
Okay. Yes.
So kind of tagging into what you're saying, I think. So the jobs that were eliminated, and say somebody had worked there and they had 100 hours of sick time and vacation time, they are not going to get that paid out to them upon termination, but if they were furloughed or laid off, they would?
No. So vacation time, they would get paid out upon termination. Sick time, they do not get paid out, and that is contractual.
Can they use the sick time towards their retirement?
If they're choosing to retire, but this is a complete layoff. And they would have to be, because of the way that the CSEA is written, they would have to have, I believe, at least 100 hours of sick time, but then there's a calculation on there. So upon retirement, they can either put it towards their health insurance or get a cash payout.
I get it. So, but if somebody had worked and they have, I'm just using the 100 hours of sick time, and the job is abolished, they get nothing.
The way that the CSEA is created in states, that would be correct, if they have 100 hours. If they have 102 hours, they would be getting paid 2 hours of their current rate times a third. It's the way the calculation is within the collective bargaining agreement.
Right, and then I don't know if this is the time in committee or if I bring it up if it passes committee, this whole thing, but there was a case where somebody had worked here for quite a few years, and their job will be eliminated, and they were only a couple years away from being retired. So, I don't know if this is the proper time to talk about it, but I'll see if it passes out of committee, and then I guess I'll bring it up at the board meeting, because it's all going to be voted on tonight if it all passes committee. So anyway, I have other questions, but I think I'll reserve them for that time. Yep, thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or discussion? All in favor? Aye. And this one's carried.
Any opposed, Mike?
Anybody opposed? I'm sorry. Thank you, Chairman. Okay. Our next issue and last one, Board of Supervisors approves the defunding and abolition of select positions within the Department of Human Services. Could I have a motion for this, please?
Support.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Discussion. Chris?
So this one, I believe the intent is to revert back to how the structure was organizationally before we commissioned the Public Works Division.
Wait a minute, you read the motion for
Number 7.
DHU at 7.
We're on 8.
I read the same one we just discussed? That's kind of dumb on my part. I'm sorry, my apologies. So, we don't have to have all that motion and second and discussion at the moment. So this one is this is a motion for Board of Supervisors to approve the defunding and abolition of select positions. Can I have a motion for that one, please?
Motion.
And second. Now we'll have the right discussion, Chris.
Okay. So
You were having the right discussion on the wrong motion.
Thank you. I believe the intent is to revert back to the organizational structure that we had prior to the commissioning of the Public Works Department. That being said, this would incorporate the Commissioner of Public Works as well as the confidential secretary to the Commissioner of Public Works Division.
Any discussion? Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This is so carried. Any unfinished business for this committee? Any new business for this committee? New business? Did somebody say yes? Oh, okay. Okay, so with that, Mr. Chairman, I think personnel is done.
Very good job. Next up, planning, development, agriculture, and tourism. Mr. Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first issue in front of the Planning, Development, Agriculture, and Tourism Committee tonight is the deferment of payments associated with revolving loan fund programs. We have Jill on the line tonight.
You there, Jill?
Yes. We can hear you.
Is there a... Go ahead, Jill.
Yes. Can you hear Ron?
Thanks, Jill. Does this affect the planning department's ability to respond to applications and grant loans or grants to any businesses?
No.
Good answer. Thank you. I think I missed the part here, though. Is there a motion for deferment of payments associated with revolving loan programs?
I'll make the motion.
I got a first from Mr. Cronenwetter and a second from Mr. Lott. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Second issue in front of us tonight is hotel and motel tax funding grants. It says here the county retains a portion of the hotel motel tax revenues beyond the tourism promotion agency funding allocation. A grant distribution policy was considered in 2019, but no action was taken by the board. This item has been placed on the agenda for renewed discussion. Do I need a motion to bring that out? No, I don't think so. Jill, can you tell us a little bit more about this?
I think I can take this one if it's okay. So as the write-up stated, the board in the front end of last year had received a request from a local tourism-related organization for some financial support. It seemed like there was a general support amongst the board to go in that direction, but there was a feeling that there should be a policy developed that would guide the board's decision in terms of criteria, dollar amounts, purpose, et cetera. And there'd been a fair amount of debate through the course of 2019, and the policy that had been drafted by County Attorney Ettman had been before the board. Since it did not get acted on by the end of the year and the board reorganized in January, that legislation fell off. I received a similar request recently for a potential funding request, and that prompted me to give Kyle a call and to put this on for a discussion item, particularly for members that weren't in the body last year, to bring folks up to speed and to get a sense of the pleasure of the committee to look at whether we want to formally bring the policy back either as it was written last year or with potential amendments. So that was the ultimate purpose of putting it on for today, to just initiate some renewed consideration, if you will.
Thank you, Mitch. Yeah, frankly, I'm not too much more familiar than what you explained to me. Are we talking about the remainder of the funds from the hotel and motel tax?
Yeah, the amount that doesn't go directly to the chamber for tourism promotion activities. That's currently the number, yeah.
Policy, correct? I thought we had said we'll figure out where the extra money was going to go and to what groups and like organizations were going to get it. Am I on the same page or am I thinking of something different? I know, but I thought that it was going to just be ended there. And then like when we wanted to give, I'm going to just throw this out, like $5,000 to the Cuba watershed and the Seneca Lake watershed, that would be decided by this board.
Correct. I think the idea is to develop a policy that we can application for.
Yeah, we did, because we just kind of took them as they came in.
Right, but the question whether that goes back to sort of general spending or if that stays in front of this committee as sort of a
I apologize. When we had the extra money from the room tax, then this board would decide where that money was allotted. Right, Chairman Heisen, am I, do you understand me?
Hang up, certain members wanted to have Seneca be the one to make the recommendations and then they'd come to the full board.
And we said no
And
to
some of
that.
us didn't like the idea, thought that we were smart enough to do that.
Correct.
So then we never went anywhere. I think John will agree with that.
Yeah, I guess you're right. It's not going to go into state cap, but I think how we developed, how we decided was the organizations that came that brought a lot of tourism, such as we always wanted to give to the watersheds. Those were high on the list. I think they always had that.
The main purpose of the policy, assuming this is on, or I'll just talk loud enough. The main purpose of the policy was to avoid the trap, I used to call it the trap, that Seneca Falls was in on their last comptroller's audit, which is that money was used for, quote, appropriate purposes, but there was no consistent policy or philosophy on how how those decisions were made. That was step number one. Step number two was, and this was brought up by a couple other board members who are no longer here and a couple other people that were involved, is that most counties, the decision on where that money, the small monies, the $5,000 to $10,000 grants, is done by either a subset of the county legislature board of supervisors or by a committee created by the board, which has one or two board members on it, to make those decisions. And it's only the exceptional request, which is for a larger sum, that would come back up to the body in general. So the primary purpose was to establish a set of guidelines for how the decisions are made. And then as Supervisor Lott pointed out, the issue was that it was an idea that you would have the proposals would come in at a point during the year before your budget, part of your budget, essentially as a part of your budget process. We set aside roughly $50,000 up front, of which we've already typically in the budget set aside money for the dog show, for the watershed grants, etc. And so the idea was to have a cutoff where the rest of that money would be allocated for the balance of the year. So it wasn't necessarily, the state cot was the issue, is because they do have an interest in that money, even though we retain 10%. And so they were the ones that came up with trying to have state cot be part of it. And so really that wasn't the intent. The intent was to have the basis for making the decisions and to set aside a calendar date to have those applications.
Thank you, Mr. If it's your pleasure, the committee's pleasure, in the next cycle, we can put it on more formally with the policy as it was left at the end of last year, and we can continue to work through this.
I think that's a good sign.
Okay. Thank you.
We do have a touch of unfinished business tonight, the application for New York State Department of Transportation Aviation Capital Grant Program. This is on the there a second? Thank you, Mr. Brownell. This is for the runway at the the hangar at the airport. I've been talking to Mitch and Chairman Heisen about this a little bit. We tabled it last month. I think at this point where we're at with county finances and COVID, it might be the best idea just to sort of walk away from this deal at the moment. I don't think our resources are best allocated to buying this this hangar. Is there other discussion? Mr. Rowe, Mr. Heisen, would you like to pitch in here?
What? Just, and I know Jill's on the line, but she also indicated to me that the application deadline just passed as well, so.
Perfect. Jill, would you like to add anything tonight?
Jill, still there?
She snuck out. Good for her. Any other questions or discussions before we vote? So, putting this back to the table, and I think it was a resolution at one point to.
Make a motion to vote it down, kill it, whatever's legal.
No action and you're done. Just declare no action.
Just so it doesn't come up again.
I declare no action. Any new business in front of this committee tonight? Hearing none, this committee is adjourned.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. So, looks like the first issue is update on New York State direction on local government workforces and reopening guidelines.
So, you should all have, hopefully they made it to your desks, a document that Chris Wagner had put together in consultation with our department heads regarding recommended guidance and protocols as the word comes down that we as a local government are, I know that Amanda put them together. If you bear with me, just give me 1 second.
So I guess while Mitch is doing that, we can move on to another issue. Elections. The election commissioners, Carl Same, Tiffany Folk, have concerns about, I'm going to try to summarize this short. They're election workers that do the polls and inspect and whatever that they do twice a year have been typically paid by a paper check. Now, with the resolution that we made in the beginning of the year that anyone that works for the county needs to be direct deposit, this has caused an issue like with the election commissioners. They feel that some of the people that do the work for them don't want to go through the hassle of signing up and they'd rather receive a paper check. So if in fact we want to look at that, then this committee would have to request that we amend that resolution and state that anyone that works for the Board of Elections twice a year will have that option to receive a paper check. Did I summarize it up pretty good?
Yeah, I think
Chris?
So we should have a waiver for the board direction?
So if Chris, do you want to talk about that? I did speak to Haley. She didn't seem to think it would be a problem, right? Or somebody that works in Chris's department handles it. I'm sorry. Just give us a rundown.
So from what I'm deciphering on it, because basically I was approached by Tiffany Folk with this question that was posed. Understandably, they have about 120 poll workers that they will be utilizing. Their biggest concern right now is they have individuals that just don't trust the statement that's within our direct deposit form that they have to fill out. It states something along the lines of, you're authorizing this company to be able to withdraw funds in the event of, you receiving additional funds. So it's scaring them that they're authorizing Seneca County to withdraw monies from their bank accounts, which is understandable. But I even spoke with one of the constituents today, or the potential employees, that Seneca County doesn't just pull funds out of your bank account. We have that clause on there in the likelihood that you get overpaid or your hours were incorrect and they needed to be changed. So you got $500 when it was supposed to be $100, and we have to be able to recoup those monies back. It's just like creating a check for the same amount and having to either cancel that check or have you cut us another check, in the likelihood that you're honest and are able to write that check back to us. One of them had mentioned that they didn't want to send their direct deposit information through the mail. I don't understand why they'd be sending it in the mail in the first place when they have to do things in person, unless that's what the election division is doing, is having them send everything in via mail. But I believe if they were doing it in person, it wouldn't be as much of an issue because it's going straight from me to you, and here's my information. It's not going to get lost in the mail or anything of that sort. As far as creating checks, what Haley mentioned to me was it's nothing additional as far as printing out the check and putting it in the envelope. I just want to remind the board that the reason why we did that resolution was on the chance that an individual loses the check. Then we would have to cancel that check and use the labor hours to create that check again. It costs us money to do both. And, quite frankly, from what I was told by one of the commissioners, these checks could get lost. You're talking about 120 people, you've got a percentage.
Yeah, but checks don't get lost that often, okay? So basically, you tried to tell them, and I think it's just a certain age of a population that would rather get a check, quite honestly. They're not into maybe direct deposit, or they're not into computers. They don't do their billing by that. So anybody else on my committee? Kyle, go ahead. Did you speak to Carl?
Yeah, I was in on the emails,
Okay.
and did a little research before I came tonight. I was pretty shocked to find that 1 out of 4 to 1 out of 5 Americans are either underbanked or don't have bank accounts at all. I don't know how many county employees we have, but I sort of regret my vote earlier in the year to support moving everybody to fully direct deposit. I don't think it should be a requirement to work for the county that you do have to do business with a bank or have to have direct deposit. I know it costs us a very minute amount of money and labor costs to reissue checks, but I would fully support the waiver for the poll workers, but I would also encourage us to revisit it because a lot of folks don't have bank accounts and shouldn't be forced to get one.
Well, I understand, but tonight I think we're just doing it for the poll workers. And again, they're paid twice a year. What we don't want is poll workers that have signed up to not want to do it because we're already short poll workers. And, it's going to be hard enough to get people to come out and work the polls with the COVID virus. So I think that if we can waive this or make an amendment, however we have to do it. What does the rest of this committee think about that? Would you support that? Kyle already said yes. We need Ernie. Ernie, and you guys okay? Okay, so we're all good with, so County Attorney, what is that? An amendment to the resolution, or make a new resolution that we do paper checks to poll workers? We can pass it in committee right now. Is this committee okay, Ralph? Kyle? Myself, and who else? Ernie? Okay, so then we'll bring it up under new business. That issue's good. Okay, now back to, we all got the handouts from Mitch, right? Okay, Mitch.
Okay, sorry for the confusion on that. So, as The governor has allowed phased reopening of the state. We are currently in phase one. Indications that Chairman Heisen and I have gotten in the control room is that if, and I think I had sent an email out yesterday to the board, if we do not as a region see any spike in our metrics numbers through the course of the week, our region is on track for phase two to be all allowed to reopen on Friday. Also related to that is, and I'm going to ask Chris to jump in and help me here in a minute, local governments, we have been operating at a 50% reduction. There's been some indications that we may be tied to phase two, but there's also some separate guidance specifically regarding local governments that would indicate, I believe, Chris, June 6th or 8th for local governments to be able to return to 100% workforce. I know we've had some discussions going forward about new thinking towards possible remote working opportunities, and I think perhaps looking at that department by department makes the most sense. But as we move towards being able to bring all of our staff back, Chris took the lead. We'd gotten some guidance and some documents from neighboring counties in the region, and worked them a little bit to fine-tune them to our needs. And I'm going to turn it over to Chris, who was the lead author on these. These have been before all of our county department heads who have been asked to further refine them by department. And Chris, if you want to maybe walk through this even at a high level for the committee.
Absolutely. So these were essentially guidelines that we provided to all of the department heads to kind of do a visual inspection as well as understand what they can do, because just like Cuomo has said, the old normal is not the new normal. So we have to see what has worked throughout this pandemic within each department. You have some departments that have gone almost 100% remote and have seen extreme productivity increases. Then you have some that, you know, they had part remote and part in person, and they really didn't see a change in productivity. So we've asked the department heads to go through and evaluate. We've started to receive their plans. And in here, we also wanted to ensure that we as a county have documentation of what we're intending on doing to mitigate the opportunity of that virus to spread. So, you know, we are abiding by the guidance that has come through the state as far as maintaining a 6-foot distance. As you'll see when you start walking through the building, we have certain markers within each department as far as, you know, here's your 6-foot distance in between. DMV has gone through with facilities' help to put in plexiglass within each, I don't want to say desk, but what is it? Each terminal. So that way it's protecting both the county resident as well as the county employees. So we're trying to go through each and every one. We're having them utilize this to understand what we're looking for as far as any risks involved for safety measures. If remote has worked, please let us know that, just so that way we can present it to you all so you can understand where we're at countywide. We are still evaluating that at this point. As Mitch said, as far as going back to 100%, we are currently still at a 65% reduction. So we do have enough leeway, if it is the 8th, to, by next week, start bringing people back even more. So we have about 34 more individuals that we can bring back on site before we go full-fledged, bringing everybody back 100%. Any questions on it?
Is the DMV incorporated in the phase 2?
We're hoping. Right now, she is still awaiting the commissioner's notification of it, but she has sent in her plan for all the safety procedures and protocols, and from what I'm hearing, it sounds like they're very happy to hear what she has set up. So at any point when they say go, she's ready. Any other questions?
All right, thank you very much. Are there any other question, any unfinished business? Any new business? I will also be discussing something during new business of the actual board meeting, but other than that, I think that government ops is, anything? Kyle?
You got to make the resolution for the new business.
Pardon me?
Under new business, you have to make the resolution, right? Or is that for the general meeting? That we just talked about? General meeting. Okay.
Yeah, that'll come, yep. So any other issues for government ops? Okay, I do have a question though. Can we ask questions at the end, Chairman, to you and Mitch, because you're on the control panel about, I did have a couple of people in my town ask about weddings and venues, and that's gonna be phase 4, correct? Can we ask them maybe during the meeting? Okay, I'll hold off. All right, thank you.
Cindy, somebody told me on a text that you gotta speak louder.
I have to speak louder?
Seriously.
Wow, okay, maybe, all right, very good, I will. Never mind, Kraut.
I couldn't resist, that was nice.
Okay, thank you.
Next up, Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 issues on the agenda for tonight. Issue number 1, increase Office for the Aging 2020 budget to reflect additional funding for the COVID-19 crisis.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? It looks like this is some additional funds that we are getting in to help out with some of the costs that we're incurring. If I don't have any other discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Our second on the agenda tonight would be Seneca County proclaims May 2020 as Older Americans Month. Looks like this has been done for quite some time. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
A second.
Second.
Any discussion on this one? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Any unfinished business? Any new business? With no unfinished or new business, I call this committee adjourned.
Okay, very good. Next up, Public Health Services, Mr. McGreevy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Call the Public Health Services Committee to order. Issue number 1, county manager authorized and directed to sign a contract with Finger Lakes Therapy Works to provide evaluations and services for the 3 to 5 preschool program. Motion.
Second.
We had a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Move on to issue number 2, county manager authorized and directed to sign a renewal for the Inter-Municipal Agreement for Public Health.
Motion?
Second. Motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? So moved. Issue number 3, county manager authorized and directed to sign a service agreement with Kathy Bond, emergency planning consultant. Motion. Second. We've had a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing there's no discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So moved. Is there any unfinished business? Is there any new business to come before the Public Health Services Committee? This committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McGreevy. Next up, Indian Affairs, Mr. Locke, do you have anything?
Chairman, I do not have anything. I don't know what the attorney or anything else does.
Okay, very good.
I do have a question, sorry.
Okay.
So if the Turning Stone's open on June 10th, have they given any direction at your control hearing meetings about Del Lago?
No, that's a phase 4.
did anybody
Right
ask
now,
how,
no.
did you ask why Turning Stone can and Del Lago can't?
Yes.
Many times.
Huh.
Mitch, you want to respond?
On the first question, we did call the question last week, and the response initially that there was, that we need to research it. But then what we got it back through the control room was that, that the Native American casinos are not subject to the governor's executive orders. And then, not in the control room, but this past Thursday night, the weekly NISAC-sponsored quote-unquote county leaders meeting, the Oneida County executive was one of the guest speakers, and I actually asked the question on the call respectfully, was he concerned as the county executive for that county that Turning Stone is in about them opening ahead of the governor's phased reopening, and his reply was that he had reviewed their safety plan, and I don't want to speak for him, and you were, but what I took County Executive Pacenti to say was that he was not concerned about any health impacts with Turning Stone opening up earlier than the governor's phase 4 for the other casinos.
Of course he wouldn't be. Right?
And then he went on to say the
Terrible.
business plan was better than any in Las Vegas. It's the best in the country and all this.
Oh, we'll be able to copy it then and start.
Yeah, Del Lago, I
Right?
will do the same thing.
And then I asked him if it was fair and all that stuff. And what did he say? He'll get back to me. That was a valid question. I said, we have jobs too. We got this, and just
Yeah.
like Anthony has. So that's how we left it.
Terrible, terrible. Okay.
So I have another question.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen, I think Mitch sent out an email that there was a chance that the Cayuga Indians were gonna open a casino in Union Springs, a big casino.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Are we gonna try to be against that formally, or are we just gonna wait and see what happens here? Or, I mean, I don't know where it stands, but I think we should come out against this, because if Cayuga County is getting some payments from Del Lago,
Yeah,
as soon as
take
they
them
pass
away.
something else,
They
that
don't
should
get payment.
They don't get it? There's
Are
no-
you sure surrounding?
They get theirs from the United Indians.
Uh,
Well,
I-
that should be looked into,
I
because if
agree.
they are, and they back another casino, I think they should be cut right off.
Well, they're not supposed to though, because they're in the zone. So actually, they'd be going, they would be breaking the state guidelines of where the casino could go.
Exclusivities.
That's correct.
Exclusivity, yeah.
Of course, good luck with
They
that.
already got a casino over there, the Cayugas have it, but I guess Turning Stone allowed that 5 years ago. But it's not, that's not as far along as you were led to believe. I did talk to the mayor.
We can make a resolution that we're not for it. There's nothing wrong with that. Go on record.
Is that an Indian land claim record?
You
Resolution?
could go on record that you're opposing it. And if they do, they don't get the cut that, I think they do get a cut from Del Lago. I'm pretty sure Cayuga County, Wayne County, no? You're 100% sure? Okay.
Mitch, am I 300% sure?
I think the east side of Seneca County is the boundary for the southern tier / Finger Lakes region for the casino boundaries.
Yeah.
So can we have, for the next Indian Affairs Committee meeting next month, have a resolution stating we'd be against any kind of casino in Cayuga County?
Absolutely.
You probably want to include that in Seneca, you want them to have their one in Seneca, because they're planning that too.
They are. Where at?
Where do you think?
For the record.
Okay, something to worry about next month. Environmental affairs.
I don't have anything tonight, Chairman.
Okay, very good. Next up, finance, assessment, and insurance. Mr. Reynolds, way out in center field.
Yeah, I'm way back here in the back 40. Finance Department authorized to pay mortgage tax, which is huge this time. Got a second?
Oh, I'm sorry, second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Mr. Ferrara, are you there?
County finance report, I see Haley's making her way up
Did
to
you
the
support
podium.
that? Did you support that?
I did. Oh, he's on. Okay, Haley, you have a finance report for us.
Yes, I do. So you all have on your desk the report that I handed out to you, the unaudited financial report for year-end 2019. I wanted to just qualify this. This is a summary. This is unaudited. But I also wanted to explain to you that typically the time frame for this would be closer to March 1st. Obviously, with COVID and what has happened, 2 months have gone by, but I do want to let you know that what Finance Department experienced these last 2 months was unprecedented. At the start of COVID, we had 2 laptops and only 2 people having the ability to work remotely. I want to thank the IT department because what they allowed us to do is by finding laptops, and I want to also thank department heads who gave up some laptops to the finance department. We were able to get 13 people able to work remotely and keep the finance department running smoothly throughout this period. So kudos to all the help that finance did get from all the other departments. So with this summary, I wanted to give you a document that gave you a little history, gave you a little bit of backup. So on page 1 is obviously the listing of 10 years of your tax levy and your tax rate, so you get a sense of what you have done in the last 10 years and where we are today. On page 2, it's the fund balance analysis, and this is for the operations account. This is excluding the enterprise funds and the capital project funds. I wanted you to get a sense of where the general fund balance was and the other funds such as workforce, county road, road machinery, workers' comp and risk management. As you can see, you have a healthy fund balance. In the general fund, it's 20% of your budget for the next year. Workforce is at 9.6% of the 2020 budget. County road is actually at 53.5% of what is budgeted for 2020. Road machinery is at 76.1% of what's budgeted. So there are some elements of, we can look at some of these fund balances going forward, whether we want to keep them at that same level, or is this an opportunity where we may have some funds that may help us in the current situation. So on to page 3, here is just your general fund balance analysis over the last 5 years, and we're in 2015, you were at 11% fund balance of your next year's budget. You've risen that up to 20% where we are today, that's a good thing. So that bodes well. On page 4 is a snapshot of the revenue sources at the end of the year. You can see we have a sales tax we rely heavily on is 41.4% of your revenue sources. Your property taxes are at 16.8%. State aid is 14.3%. Federal aid is at 10.8%. Department income and on down make up the balance of those fundings, but I think that's something you should have a sense of where your revenues are coming from and how they may get impacted. I did want to let you know that the Del Lago Casino gaming revenue is actually under the other tax items, which make up about 4.5% of your revenue sources. So you have a total revenue of $66,633,476. Page 5 is your general fund expenditures, and I've broken it down by your functional unit categories. So social services is our largest area of expenditures. Next is our public safety. So social services at 29.4%, public safety is at 21.9%. General government support is at 13.6%. Health, which includes mental health and public health, is at 14.7%. Your interfund transfers are 8.6%, and that includes your interfund transfers out to your highway, your workforce, your self-insurance, some support for the airport. Education, the 3%, that is strictly your college tuition that you give to the colleges that your residents go to. Your home and community services at 4.7%. This includes departments such as planning, codes, and your team agencies that you support. Your economic assistance and opportunity at 3.26%. Those are weights and measures, OFA, weatherization, and veterans agencies. Then you have your culture and recreation, which that's your historian's office, and your other employee benefits include some of the things that we budget for, such as unemployment insurance and some of the medical insurance. And then the transportation number is your RGTA expenditures. So you have the total expenditures of the $64,137,059. And then I wanted to give you a sense that in those expenditures is the overtime. Overtime, I think, it gives you a good sense of some of the departments that have a need to use overtime, but also it can be indicative where we have areas that we have a hard time filling vacant positions or retaining people. And so I wanted you to have that information so that you can keep that mindful and when we're trying to move forward with how we're recruiting and how we're handling vacancies. So, but you do see that overtime has gone up from 18 to 19. In 2018, the total overtime for the county was $800,000, whereas in 19 it had risen to $903,000. So that's a significant number not to gloss over. And lastly, on page 7, I wanted to give you a sense of where we've been with your reserves. You have a number of reserves that we have set up. I want to give you a trend of where they've been from 2016 to 2019. So your repair reserve is at $103,192. Your technology reserve is $380,000. Capital building reserves at $527,000. 911 communications reserve at $100,000, and your tax reduction reserve is at $10,169,000. Your Indian property tax reserve is at $350,000, and then we have the stop DWI reserve at $204,000, and the alternatives to incarceration at $12,425. So in total, your total reserves equal $11,848,482. So if you have any questions about the summary, I do have detailed reports. If anybody does want the detail, I can certainly provide that to you. But I didn't think you would want to have that bulk copied out to you and on your desk. You're welcome.
How did our technology reserve, what's supposed to have a minimum balance of $100,000, why is it $380,000?
So what that was is a couple of years ago, we had gotten a refund from an overpayment from, I believe it was either Verizon or one of the telephone companies, and we set that money aside to go towards the new phone system. The phone system had not been completed in 18, so it rolled over into 19, and then so we just need to close that cost of that phone system against the reserve, and I think it was about $181,000.
Question is, when, Haley, do you think you'll have like the complete reports for the water sewer numbers?
So we did do the water sewer preliminary at the public hearing, so that's a very good question. We do need to finalize those, and I can work with Attorney Ettman and make sure that we get those done as a final follow-up from that public hearing. Okay. But the audit has officially started today. They had put it on pause because of the New York pause as well. So today they're doing the preliminary work this week, and then the week of June 8th and the week of June 15th, they're going to be doing their in-depth auditing. And they're actually planning to have a couple of staff come on site as well, but they're going to be doing a bulk of it remotely.
Is this the state? This comptroller's office?
No, this is Bonadeo. This is our annual audit.
Okay. Have we ever heard from the state about coming back through and following up on recommendations that they made? Have they came back through at all?
I have not heard of them specifically
Okay.
in any particular area at current.
Okay. All right, thank you.
And I'd like to let members of the board and members of the public who may be watching online this evening that Haley's report has been placed on the county's website, on the homepage of the Board of Supervisors and the County Manager's Office. So if there's anybody that would like to take a look at those, they are available on the county's website as of a little earlier today. And Haley finished them up today, so as soon as they were done, they were placed on the website.
So I didn't know if we wanted to talk about any of the current 2020 potential impact. Right now, I know gaming revenue is a big consideration. We have $2.5 million budgeted for gaming revenue. Our first payment came in about $100,000 less than what we typically get. It came in at $473,000. So if we figure that there's going to be a full quarter of no gaming revenue, I anticipate only getting $1.4 million for the year. So that's going to be a shortfall of $1 million for gaming revenue. State aid, we know it's run the gambit where they say anywhere between 20% and 50%. I really don't feel comfortable like placing a number on that, but certainly we're working with department heads and different agencies to find out what will get impacted. The one thing I can tell you that won't get impacted is the Indigent Legal Service Fund grants. Those are, because they were a court-ordered type situation, those won't be going away. So we know that's, I think we have $1.5 million in the budget towards that in 2020. However, the rest of the departments, we're not sure. I know we have $11 million budgeted overall for the whole county. We have about $9.8 million left of that budget needing to be collected. So we'll keep you posted. If I were to take 20% of that $9.8 million, it's $1.9 million. Whether that's a good number or not is anybody's guess at this point. I have talked to the sheriff. Department revenue seems to still be intact. He's been assured by the schools the SRO positions are still there. He's still planning on getting reimbursed for his court security. So we don't have any issues with that. Margaret Moore says that her school-based programs they're still planning them in the fall, so that they seem to be intact. Sales tax is the tough nut to crack at the moment. What we did see in year-to-date 2019 through the May figures, we are down 19.6%. So that's approximately 469,000 shortfall. If I figure we're going to at least be the 20% off the mark for the next month, that's going to be another 640,000. So that's $1 million there. And then you have to add in the costs that the governor's put on for the fiscally distressed hospitals. Our share of that is $162,000. That's going to operate similar to your AIM funds, where he's going to take that right out of our sales tax funding. So we want to work that into our calculations that we know what our actual percentage of sales are. I have been working with Frank Sinacropi to get access to some other reporting online that I can maybe do some in-depth analysis, but at this time I think it's a little bit premature to put some hard numbers, in particularly because the governor has also pushed back businesses' timing of when they need to remit their sales tax. He's given them a bit of a grace period. So what that's going to do is going to affect our cash flow of when we're going to see that money come back in. So it's going to be a work in progress. I would like to see what this next month's numbers look like before we say for certain what we think our budget gaps might be. And it's certainly going to depend on how quickly the phasing in approach and opening up of the county is going to be. Well, we know Del Lago's sales tax is non-existent right now. We all know that there's other companies and businesses in the area that have been very busy. So, and certainly people's are buying online, and we'll have sales tax coming in from those online purchases. So I think it really is premature, but just with the numbers that I've tossed out to you right now, that looks like a deficit of $4.2 million. So we're keeping that in mind. We're working with the department heads like Tracy, who's already made some changes to her budget. We're talking with, Buildings and Grounds and with Highway about some of their bigger repairs or equipment replacements that maybe we can push off. And we'll certainly bring those back to you when we have some better ideas. You want to add anything? Okay.
Thank you for all your work on that, Haley.
Chairman of the Seneca County Board of Supervisors authorized and directed to renew the contract with receiver for leasing and maintaining multifunction copiers and printers. Second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. All opposed? Carried. We have no unfinished business. Is there any new business? Park update description. The board will be briefed on current planned activities at Lafayette Park in the village of Waterloo. This is for discussion only. Mitch?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. A couple things. Bob Stuck and I met recently with Village of Waterloo officials on a couple things related to Lafayette Park. I want to let you know that things have been progressing with the Purple Heart Monument that you authorized a few meetings ago. The anchor that had come out of Sampson has gone back to Sampson, and it shouldn't be much longer before the monument is installed in its current location. With the COVID-19 pandemic, plans for formal dedication, etc., have been on hold. So as there's more clarity on that, I will be sure to keep everybody informed. Also, I passed out at the beginning of a meeting a rendering of a mural that the village would like to introduce in the park along the 5 and 20 frontage, 5 feet high, 8 feet wide. And Bob Stuck and I both thought, while this may not require a formal board resolution, that we ought to brief the board of the village's interest. We do currently carry insurance for the activities that the village does in the park, and they would be accepting full maintenance responsibility for the mural. And so I wanted to make sure you all knew about that and make sure there wasn't any concerns on the board's part about the introduction of this mural at the park. Thank you.
Good. Unfinished business. I think we're skip A. Supervisor report. Next step is completing the facilities master plan implementation until we can see John Snyder. So, on the issue B, is there any update on supervisors authorized execution of intermunicipal agreements for wastewater to Main Street and operation maintenance? Okay. All right. New business. New business. Well, it's not done, so.
Complain about it, that's not.
Okay? New business. Anybody have new business? If not, public works is adjourned.
Very good, thank you. Next up, water sewer treatment management and operations.
Order, first issue, ongoing issues regarding water and sewer treatment management and operation. Updates on issues, news, concerns regarding water and sewer treatment management and operation. Second issue is the board of supervisors accept quote for Seneca master meter and sewer.
Make a motion.
All those in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Unfinished business, any new business?
I'll ask something to Doug, unfinished business. Village, Levi reached out to me, this is a question for county attorney yet. They are wondering if there's a current existing sewer use law on the books. They received your copy and are sending it on to their attorneys, but they would like to know if there is one existing that they can compare it to. They not seem to find.
Yes, I get that.
Thank you. That's all I have for
New business? None? Oh. Dr. Ron, with your hand up there on the Indians and on the Colorado. Want to comment?
Yes, I spoke with General Manager Lance Young and Meredith Smith this afternoon. They pretty much echoed what County Manager Rowe had said as far as the governor's stance on Native American casinos. They are certainly concerned. They are looking at, again, phase 4, probably be first of July, before they have any attempt to reopen.
And that's a sad state of affairs because the Indians in Connecticut are opening up June 1st. We don't know when the Seneca they're opening up. They'll probably beat Turning Stone. All they say is June. We're gonna have 10, 12 casinos open.
Understood. I
2 months ahead of
I
every-
certainly understand.
of the legitimate
as well.
casinos in
It's
New
not
York City.
fair by any stretch of the imagination. Why the governor is taking this stance baffles us all.
Excuse me though, with your control room, I thought that if numbers stayed low, they would incorporate the phases at an earlier time frame. Not for phase 4, because actually, it could be like, not June, huh? I'm asking you guys in the control room.
So one of
Sorry.
the points that was made in the control room meeting this afternoon was, first of all, the governor is going to be in Washington, D.C. tomorrow, meeting with the president. So he's probably not going to do a daily briefing tomorrow, but they did indicate that Thursday's briefing by the governor would probably...
Is your microphone on?
Okay. That Thursday's briefing by the governor would, these are my words, but what I took away from today's report was that the governor's briefing on Thursday will be very important as it relates to the next phase of the reopening, which is next in line to be phase 2, but it is very possible that items could move from one phase level to another. So I think Thursday is probably going to be an important day, and I will be sure to get updates out to everybody as that information becomes available.
So my other question is, I had someone from my town, basically, that owns the venue to hold weddings at. Who do they contact about when and if and what type of plan they have to implement? Because we've passed the wedding season, but we're definitely totally into some of the people that have rescheduled, and now we're back to trying to see if they can hold their weddings. How does that work?
Lease it to the Indians. Cut them in a percentage of it, and then you can have as many weddings as you want.
Not fair.
My understanding of the categories is that that as we speak, that is a phase 4 activity. And if it stays in phase 4 and our region's numbers stay on track, it would probably be 4 weeks from Friday.
Okay. When do they get guidelines specific as to how big of an event they can have? Where are the guidelines?
Right now, it's 10 people.
I know, but not in the phase 4, I would hope.
No,
We're looking at weddings.
Yeah,
like,
I would say that if you got to phase 4.
Right.
And those, entertainment venues, which would include Del Lago, that the plan that they have to submit would lay that out. And I know the casinos are talking about starting, I believe, at like 25% and then going up from there. So
25% of their fire capacity of which they can hold?
yes.
Okay.
And then it would
Related
phase
to
up
the
from
square
there.
feet, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Not a number.
Yeah, so I don't know that I could tell you definitively that would apply to wedding venues, but I think for planning purposes, that would be a reasonable approach for a venue operator to look at.
Is there a number that they can call with specific questions so they can try to start to organize and schedule that you guys might be able to?
There is an online mechanism for Empire State Development. I can send that around to everybody tonight, and if you want to forward that out to constituents.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Back to Ron and Del Lago. I think later tonight, we're gonna hold a vote here about supporting chiropractic college. You want opening up early? Is that right? Why don't we ask Del Lago to put proposals together to get them to go from phase 4 back to phase 2? They've already got the history that the Indian casinos are gonna open up early. They can say that as part of their argument. I think we should start getting proactive. We're gonna make tax money off of Del Lago. If chiropractic college opens up, we're not gonna see squat. So we should be backing the organizations, the businesses that are gonna make us some tax money. And I think we should ask Del Lago to put something together to try to open early.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Make a resolution.
I think they ought to at least propose it to the governor saying, if the Indians can do it.
Absolutely. All we're gonna do at chiropractic colleges, they're gonna go to the governor, so we should ask Del Lago to put something together and we'll back them to open them up.
Well, I think they should be 2 different resolutions.
Absolutely. Yep. Each one stand on its own. But we should do so. And it should come from Del Lago if they want to open, because they have to come up with a plan.
They do have a reopening plan in place, but I have not seen it yet. When that would be available to us, I do not know. But they do have one in place, and it's supposed to be a very good plan, was what I was told today.
Well, I think if you can talk to them, Ron, tell them that put something together and come to this board, and
Yeah.
we'll see if we can back them going to the governor.
We could do that the second week. Yes,
Can I ask a question first?
yes.
I strongly support trying to do this with Del Lago, but I'm a little confused. We had some people who were concerned about the plan for the chiropractic college, which was a very controlled plan, trying to open up early, and here we're talking about opening up Del Lago early. I support both of them strongly, but I'm just confused how you can be opposed to a very controlled situation versus a casino.
Point
Can
well
I answer
taken.
that? That's me, that's probably the one that's on both sides of the fence, getting a sore butt.
Identify, please, that was Supervisor,
Ferrara.
on the telephone call and back to now Supervisor Lott.
And this is Supervisor Lott. I feel that education is very important, but they're bringing students in from a location, we haven't had the vote yet, I don't know how it'll turn out here, but they're bringing students in from a location, and Del Lago might too. Personally, I think the county should just come out and say, there's no coronavirus left in this county much, we should just open up the whole goddamn place. I don't feel we should be closing up anything, let all. I went by a church Sunday morning that probably had 50 cars, and they weren't like the Baptist church down on 414, they're all sitting in cars listening to the radio. Those people were in that church. So people are doing it anyhow, and we might as well get behind the citizens that want to open up.
You already asked that last time.
Okay, thank you.
Last time you asked that.
Okay, Vicky Schweinhart would like to,
You would have a different opinion on this, but anyway.
yes, Vicky says she'd like to speak. Vicky?
That's correct. I realize economic situation, believe me, I understand that. But you've got to remember, we are in the middle of a pandemic. People are dying, people are getting sick. We have people in this county that are asymptomatic and are carrying this disease. We've got to have a controlled, phased-in response. We don't know what's going to happen, and just to start opening everything up, I think is dangerous and not wise. You're jeopardizing my health as well as your health, as well as the health of your family. Remember the elderly in this community. Remember your children and your grandchildren and what you're doing to them.
Okay. Okay. Any other comments before we go to the regular meeting?
I still think we should open.
What's that?
I still think we should open.
You mean the casino?
I think everything.
But,
what the hell do I know?
okay. Ernie?
I have a
Now
question
speaking.
for Mr. McGreevy. You said that they're working on a plan today. You were informed of that. Are they planning on reopening? And some of these big companies, if they can't get refinanced and stuff, they'll close it.
They're
Are they
waiting-
planning on opening?
Yeah, they're waiting for direction from the Gaming Commission as well as the governor. That's what they're waiting for. They're wanting to comply with the governor. Again, they're not happy that Turning Stone and Yellow Brick Road are opening on June 10th, but they want to comply with the governor. They want to comply with the Gaming Commission. The Gaming Commission really controls what they do. They certainly can't run afoul of them. So we've got to wait and see what happens. Certainly, they know that we support them and their opening as soon as possible, and we recognize the unfairness that the governor has shown towards the non-Native American casinos.
And my biggest worry is once they open up these casinos and all these other businesses that are still waiting, being good, honest citizens, aren't gonna take it any longer when they see all these casinos opening up. So it could turn into the Wild West. Then we'd really be in trouble, Vicki.
Yeah, we don't want the Gaming Commission to come down on Del Lago and shut them down or that. We don't, I don't know exactly what authority the Gaming Commission has, but I believe it's significant.
Well, I think they would have to wait, but I'm talking about small local businesses that are supposed to be on phase 3 and phase 4. They aren't gonna wait. They're just gonna open up and ignore it after all these casinos open up. 'Cause it's tough to be patient watching somebody else getting away with it.
Vaccine in October.
Yeah, I mean, we've been through 3 or 4 months of this now. We got 4 weeks left. I just encourage everybody to hang tight. We're almost
Maybe,
there.
maybe 4 weeks.
That's the plan, right?
It's maybe 4 weeks left. You know what happens when the casinos open up and they spread the COVID all around upstate New York? Then we go back a phase.
We had a 5% increase in cases in Seneca County over the weekend. I mean, we're not on the downturn.
Right, you're right.
I mean, we, as this board, we sat here and complained about people coming from upstate and staying at our hotels, or staying at our motels, staying at our B&Bs. We talked about people coming to our wineries and our restaurants, and everybody was against that. Let's not jump the gun and invite the entire state to come to our casinos as well.
Okay, well, we can wait till, like we said, the second Tuesday of the month. We'll have time to think about that some more. Okay. Okay, what's next on the agenda?
I don't even know where we are.
We deal the regular board meeting.
Yeah, board
Regular
meeting.
meeting, I think. What?
You're in betwixt and between.
I know, where are we next? We'll be going to the regular meeting now.
No break?
No, we gotta start off the call to order, Mike. Okay, since we're all set, I'm ready to call the Seneca County Board of Supervisors regular meeting to order, or the business meeting, I guess we call it. And Margaret, could you do the roll call?
Supervisor Reynolds.
Here.
Supervisor Garlic Lorenzetti.
Here.
Supervisor Brownell.
Here.
Supervisor Barnhart.
Here.
Supervisor Borst.
Here.
Supervisor Hayes.
Here.
Supervisor Ferrara. Is he here now?
He's
Okay.
here.
He's on the phone.
He's here on the phone. Okay. Supervisor Lott.
Here.
Supervisor McGreevy.
Here.
Supervisor Heisen.
Here.
Supervisor Trout.
Here.
Supervisor Clear is not present at all, and Supervisor Enslow.
Here.
You have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm here too.
Did I skip you? I'm sorry. Mr. Cronenwetter. I'm sorry. Mr. Cronenwetter is here too.
Okay, let's rise to the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mike, you really messed that up on it. Okay, a moment of silence. Okay, please be seated. Yes.
On the meeting that you can approve, but I sent some meeting minutes out to you guys.
Oh, okay. You want to do that now or wait till the next meeting?
The meeting minutes of May 12th and the meeting minutes of April 28th. That you guys received copies for. And in March, I don't know if I guess we'll have to wait till the next meeting.
Okay, let's wait till the next meeting.
All the draft copies are out, so I you guys are interested in them.
Okay, so we won't worry about that. Okay, report of special committees. Anybody have any special committees to report? All the other committees met, so soil and water or cooperative extension or anything? IDA?
Soil and water met last week in a live meeting. We did it at the office. I think there's 3 or 4 of us that showed up. The rest of them were all online. But I don't know. They're working remotely, as just like everybody else is trying to do, and they're getting things done. Working on a ton of grants there. Chris there is really bringing in the money, or not bringing the money, applying for grants and getting them. So things are going good.
Okay, thank you. Okay, any other committees? Okay, chairman's remarks. I think I said enough during the course of the meeting tonight. County manager's remarks?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, county attorney's remarks?
Nothing.
Nothing. Communications?
Communications number 40 through 51 were received and filed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next up is, instead of putting them all into one resolution, I think we might have to have a couple we might want to debate here, so We'll just go through these resolutions quickly, one at a time. Okay, finance, assessment, and insurance. Who's the vice chairman on that?
Me, I'd like to authorize finance department to pay the mortgage tax.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next up, technology.
Authorize contract renewal for Toshiba for leasing and maintaining multifunctional copiers and printers.
Second.
Take a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Personnel. Mike, you aren't there, so, Mr. Lott. You are here.
Yeah, Ralph can read them off, that's good.
Right.
Gee, thanks. Board of Supervisors appoint personnel officer as interim risk manager.
Support.
Take a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Second one, Board of Supervisors approve hiring freeze waiver for case supervisor grade B.
Support.
Support. I got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Board of Supervisors approve hiring freeze waiver for 2 full-time cleaners at grade 1. CSA, EA, CSB contract.
Support.
Okay, I got a second on that. Chris, was that okay?
We know what he's talking about.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Board of Supervisors approve hiring freeze waiver for account clerk.
Support.
Second, discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried. Thank you, Mike.
Board of Supervisors approve hiring freeze waiver for accountant 1.
Support.
Support? Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Carried.
Board of Supervisors approve hiring freeze waiver grant management specialist.
Support.
Yeah, a lot of support. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
Board of Supervisors approves the defunding and abolition of select positions within Department of Human Services.
Support.
Support. Any discussion?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would like to highly encourage that anyone that their position was abolished, that has over 27 years of service in here, I would like to encourage that Chris Wagner and possibly work with those people to try to find them, if there's another spot here, that they may be able to fill. Unfortunately, it came to my attention, I don't know if anybody else got an email, I forwarded it on to Chairman Heisen, where someone did fall under this category. So I guess just, that's it. I don't think it's an amendment, I think it's to try to encourage that we find another spot for somebody that's been here that long and only a couple years away from retiring. Because unfortunately, I misunderstood when, you know, we discussed this. I didn't think that somebody was in quite that position, so. Are you guys good with that? Okay.
Yeah, Chris, why don't you respond since we're like on television here? Don't laugh, Mike.
Yes, so we can certainly work with all of those, even those that have been here for under 27 years. We do have limited vacancies, but we can certainly try and find places that positions that fit their skill sets, abiding by civil service laws, of course.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you.
I had one other question on this also. Regarding their health insurance, are they out of health insurance right now, or is there a grace period for them for health insurance?
So all employees are actually prepaying for the month coming up. So all of them actually have the opportunity to carry it through to the end of June, and then they would be able to fall under COBRA. If they choose not to, then they can get a cash out for reimbursement of those.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing no nays, carried.
Board of Supervisors approves the defunding and abolition of select positions.
Support.
Support. Support, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Next up, Human Services, Supervisor Board.
All right, increase office for the aging 2020 budget to reflect additional funding for COVID-19 crisis.
Support.
Support, any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Carried.
All right, number 21, Seneca County proclaims May 2020 as Older Americans Month.
Support.
A second there, okay. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Planning, Development, Agriculture, and Tourism, Supervisor Barnett.
Close enough. Deferment of payments associated with revolving loan fund programs.
Support.
Support, got a second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public Health Services, Supervisor McGreevy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Authorized service agreement with Kathy Bond, Emergency Planning Consultant.
Support. Okay, got support. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Mr. McGreevy again.
Number 24, authorized renewal of Inter-Municipal Agreement for Public Health.
Support.
Got support. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Number 25, authorized contract with Finger Lakes Therapy Works to provide evaluations and services for the 3 to 5 preschool program.
Support. Okay, second. Any discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay, unfinished business. Do we have any?
I have a question.
Okay.
We had talked about before the no parking and stuff down on County Road there and all that stuff.
121 by the
121.
cigarette place?
My question is why aren't we enforcing what we put in? We put the signs up, they park in between the signs. Nobody's getting tickets. So, I mean, there's a lot of things we can't control with the QGIS that we would love to control, but we can't. So we spend our time complaining about it instead of doing the stuff that we can to what we can do. I mean, we put the no parking up because it's a safety hazard. They don't have a parking lot, so people park, walk across the street, somebody gets killed. I don't think they really give two craps if somebody gets killed. They only care about, we care about it, but they don't. So we don't enforce that. We don't enforce the number that a person's allowed to bring out. You can buy as many cases or cartons of cigarettes as you want inside. Once you step off of their property, you have to abide by the federal laws and the state laws. I mean, there's laws in place that govern what we can do and can't do. I've not understood yet why we don't enforce any of them. We just complain. Complaining gets us nowhere.
That's up to the sheriff department. Also, if they come out in a sealed bag, you don't know how many cigarettes they have. I think they're allowed 10 cartons. I'm not 100% sure. That's
Whatever that
quite a
is.
few years ago when we were discussing that. So, I don't know. But parking, Mike, you want to address the parking on your public hearing?
I can do that. So next Tuesday is the town's board meeting. We have a public hearing before the meeting starts, and I hope after the meeting that starting June 3rd, I can write out 1,000 tickets a day. So we just have to have something on the books, obviously, to enforce the law, okay? So at the town level, there will be enforcement of the no parking on East Barrett Street Extension, County Road 121 or 116. I lost track of them all. But anyway, so that's going to happen. I don't know anything about I've only heard once or twice. I don't know the real rule behind how many cartons of cigarettes people come by. So I can't speak to that.
And you're supposed to technically put that tax that you got away with on your New York State income tax return too, technically speaking.
So, okay, well, that's good on that point.
And I asked, I'm sorry, if I can just one more thing.
Yes, you may.
I'm the general, I asked Mark Shaw, who I saw who was down the country club doing an inspection. I asked him, have you ever been into that place and did an inspection? And the answer was, no, we've tried, they don't fill out the paperwork. I said, well, I hope that you put it on your agenda and walk in and do something, okay? So I don't know if that's happened yet or not, but I put a bug in his ear last week.
Okay, so noted. We'll find out. Sounds like the jury is out.
They'll also, in conjunction with their public hearing next week, Supervisor Farrar reached out through my office to the sheriff codes. We will have some written comments for their public hearing to help justify the change in the parking on that part of Baird Street. The state route is no parking, and it was an interim effort that we made, but it does require the town to come in and do a full local law, which is why they have their public hearing for the Baird Street extension.
Thank you.
And I believe you're also addressing Garden Street extended as well. Is that correct, Supervisor Ferrara?
No, not just not Garden Street, just County Road. We have a couple other parking changes, but Garden Street's not one of them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, they're within the old village, the other two.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Garth-Lonzetti.
So to piggyback off Supervisor Hayes, so County Attorney, can you look into what that number is of cartons of cigarettes? And if in fact, can the Seneca Falls PD, while they're issuing a no parking ticket, would they be allowed to give a ticket of too many cartons of cigarettes, or does it have to be the sheriff's office?
It'll be a question of plain view. I mean, they've had the right to, they can't make a direct traffic stop. The parking ticket would only be on a walk-by basis. Those are not moving violations. I believe that they have been apprised of what the limits are. I'll go back and check and make sure that they are. It has been a matter of, because of the problems that came up with the seizure, it was a question of how far they wanted to go, law enforcement wise.
Well, that's really not, I'm not so sure that's an answer. So how many cartons are they allowed? Okay. And if in fact they're walking out, so it's not like they need a search warrant or anything.
If they're walking out with a bag, a closed bag, you need a search warrant.
Is the crime the person who purchases the cigarettes and traffics them?
It's possession of untaxed cigarettes by a non-Native American.
So what if they're walking out with 4 bags? You need a search warrant for that? You're telling me then that they can go in and pack a cooler full of cigarettes and walk out and you can't do anything about it?
They would probably be able to do that. I cannot mind read what the court system will do.
Possibly.
I have reviewed this previously. The basic answer is anytime that there has been a prosecution for untaxed cigarettes, it has been in conjunction with some other matter. So that's why I discussed the concept of a plain view issue. But if it's in a sealed container, it's a very difficult issue to deal with.
Well, the other issue is no parking ticket. It's not like you're pulling them over. They're writing a ticket for where they shouldn't have been parked.
That's correct.
So they then, with that ticket that they're writing, can't see how many cigarettes they have in possession?
If it's not in plain view.
I mean, I would argue that their storefront is within plain view. I mean, I can sit at the corner and see inside.
When this was raised prior, or shortly before the seizure and shortly after the seizure, I mean, I wasn't the attorney, but we'd all discussed it. The issue is that the old store, you could not see in. And they have been very careful at Union Springs to make sure that you cannot see an actual purchase.
Yeah, but we're talking about Seneca Falls, and this, you're talking about something that happened how many years ago?
I'm talking, I mean,
Right?
I am talking about what's required to do an arrest for an untaxed possession of tobacco products.
But you can see them walking
You
out.
want to spend all your resources, you know.
Yeah, I'm also-
parking tickets, and you're not going to get anywhere in court with the untaxed.
Well, that's exactly what Supervisor Hayes is saying. We allow it to happen. We don't research, we don't try it again. So we're gonna complain. We need to figure out, you can see them walking back out. They're getting a parking ticket. If they have 2 big grocery bags, to me, I don't understand why you wouldn't be able to say, I think you have more than 10 cartons of cigarettes there. Let's take a look.
For the same reason I can't stop a person coming out of a quote, unquote, drug house, unquote. And if I don't see the actual drugs in their hand, I cannot stop them.
I mean, I'd also be hesitant about enforcing these laws on Seneca County residents as opposed to the
Why?
Cayuga Nation, which is what we're really trying to.
Why? They enable. They're enablers. Anybody who goes there and buys stuff from them, whether you live in Seneca County or any other county, you're an enabler. You enable them to keep taking money from the county. Clear and simple.
Can you write a law that says you want to search only people that go to the Indian store?
No.
No.
So,
Fourth Amendment.
What you need to have is Brian Laudadio explain it to you.
Well,
I can
maybe we
understand
could,
the open,
maybe
you can't
Chairman,
tell
we
what's
could
in
ask that question
plain
specifically
view. I
of
can
him.
understand the plain view, and I can understand that, but what I'm saying is I don't understand, there's things in place, there's laws that we have, whether it's the no parking, if they do too many, there's a place in Ovid that buys cigarettes from there, takes them back to their house, and then sells them to people at a markup. Now, what the hell is that?
That's illegal.
That's different.
Well, it has been reported, and the Seneca County Sheriff's Department did absolutely zero. So who gets punished for that? The Board of Supervisors, we allow it to happen apparently because we don't hold the Sheriff's Department responsible for what laws that they're not even enforcing. But yet we're gonna tell someone you can't have 10 people at a facility, what are you gonna do to them? You can't arrest them. You can only ask them to go away. You can't take it away from them. There's no law. I don't remember any legislative body that got together and decided to say, okay, you can't have more than 10 people to make it a law like we're gonna do and Seneca Falls is doing for parking. We just didn't throw the signs up and say, okay, go ahead and start parking. But yet we have to do a legislative action, but apparently it's only conducive to whatever somebody feels. It's just ridiculous. I don't know. I don't get it. We say one thing, we do something else, and then we can't understand my questions. I don't know. Maybe it's me, but I just don't feel it's right anymore. We're way past the point of it being right.
I agree. We've been fighting it for 30 some odd years. And we just keep indirectly losing, but we're still in the fight. We might win when we get to the
I think
Supreme
we make
Court.
the residents of Seneca County start paying for the action they allow to happen. It's their own fault.
Well, I do think our little press release we had that let the taxpayers know in the pandemic times like we're in, the $6 million the Indians owe us. That didn't go over too well with the public, so a little education went on. Mr. Ferrara said he had a lot of bad vibes over it on Facebook or something. People were mad.
And they should be.
Okay, I guess we beat that to death. Okay.
Again.
Okay, any other unfinished business? Okay, new business now. Anybody
sir.
want to what?
Yes, sir. New business.
Yes, new business.
Correct.
you have a resolution?
For checks,
Oh, yeah. I forgot.
paychecks.
Yeah. Am I doing it myself? Okay, so I guess if this board would approve, that the Board of Election workers that work twice a year be paid by paper checks.
Support.
Okay, we got a first and a second. Any discussion?
I reword that to simply allow them to be exempt from the policy. They don't just have to get paper checks. If some of them sign up, they can get direct deposit.
Okay.
But it allows an exemption for the election workers.
If they so desire. Okay.
I didn't hear the second.
What?
Mr. Hayes.
Mr. Hayes.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? You said aye, okay. Carried. Next up, we need a motion, hopefully, somebody will bring up a motion to ask the governor to expedite the process of NYCC reopening at an earlier phase.
I'll make a motion.
Cronwetter,
Second.
second by Mr. Trout. Mr. You can vote when you get, if you want to talk now, Mike, you can talk.
Again, I think it's a well thought out plan. It's a extenuating circumstance. The town of Seneca Falls will be doing the same thing on June 2nd. I can't speak for the board, but I'm going to encourage it strongly. I just think it's a very unique situation, and I know there's other colleges, in the same predicament. But if you're a med student, you can get a placement in a hospital to do your work because the hospital is still open. It's just a unique situation, and I think we ought to show our support to the governor and try to encourage it to stay happen. That's all.
And then if we pass this, Mitch and I can send it on to the control board. We have a video here to show it to them and the paperwork that I sent you Friday and more paperwork today. Kyle.
I would just encourage this board to defer to our public health workers who have the expertise to make these decisions. As far as I know, we only have one public health worker in the room, but we do have one on the phone, and she is advising us against passing this resolution.
But we're asking him, the governor, to move up the process. So if the process goes from phase 4 to phase 3, and the governor okayed it, I think then Vicki would probably sign on to it.
I understand, Mr. Chairman, you're in construction, I'm in hospitality, she's in public health, and I'm going to follow her lead.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, roll call. I think it's our first roll call this year.
Supervisor Cronenwetter?
Aye.
Supervisor Trout?
Yes.
Supervisor Reynolds?
Yes.
Supervisor Lorenzetti?
I do believe they have a good plan in place, and I do public health, so I am going to agree to it, and also,
Supervisor Brownell?
excuse me.
Aye.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Yes, sorry.
Supervisor Brownell?
Aye.
Supervisor Barnhart?
Nay.
Supervisor Forrest?
Aye.
Supervisor Hayes?
Aye.
Supervisor Ferrara?
Aye.
Supervisor Lott?
No.
Supervisor McGreevy?
Aye.
Supervisor Heisen?
Yes, aye.
Supervisor Enzo?
Yes.
Wait for me to add up, or? you can
Just tell us
say yes.
number, how many yeses? and
Don't
noes?
count Bob's as 3.
Supervisor Barnhart voted nay, Supervisor Lott voted nay, and Supervisor Clear is not here.
Okay.
He has 57 votes, Barnhart had 35, Lott had 68, and the motion passes.
Okay, passes by over 2/3, I think, but we'll have a final tally sometime soon,
I
right?
can add it now, but you know how I am.
I know. Where's your computer?
Up there.
Okay.
Got a virus.
Up there, okay, so motion carries anyway. Thank you, and we'll send that on to the control panel, right, Mitch? Okay, and we'll see what happens. Anything else? Any other new business? Yes.
Yes. Not a resolution, just a concern. So basically, I had heard through the rumor mill. I think I've kept this board up to date with emails regarding, I want to make it short, it's been a long day. So we had the discussion of, I got to use my microphone, sorry. Mr. Aronson going to work for Mr. Martin, which I heard on the street. I'm like, that's got to be a rumor. And Supervisor Hayes assured me that it was not. So, sorry, County Attorney, I called you, and quite honestly, the only thing that triggered it is that in my town, when I'm done, or anybody on a board, you can't do business with that town for 2 years. So it clicked, and I'm like, how can this be happening? Sorry though, County Attorney Ettman, that when I called you, you're like, well, there's nothing we can do. Which honestly and truly, as a county attorney, I would have liked an answer of, let me see and let's research it. Because then after you did, you were able to find out that he cannot do it, which I passed along that information to the board. I did not ask you at that time to call him, however you did, because what I wanted to do tonight was this board to file a complaint. So I think you all know that Mr. Aronson withdrew. He's not going to be working for Mr. Martin. But what needs to be known is that this could have taken place. And to me, that's just not right. I'll leave it at that. I could probably go on and on and on with my thoughts, but this is one of the reasons that people are sick of politics and sick of anybody that's related to politics. And that's how I'll end it. Thank you. File the complaint. So then, if that's the case, why is he not going to work for Mr. Martin?
Because at this point, he talked to his attorney.
Yeah.
He was asked originally to consult on a federal matter. He was then asked to consult on the plan. Article from Public Office Law 73. Article 73.
Wait, Mike. Dave's still speaking.
Article 73 of the Public Officers Law precludes an agency person, I'll use that term, from appearing in front of their agency for a minimum of 2 years following. The agency that he was the executive director of was the Seneca County Industrial Development Agency. There is nothing that would preclude him from representing Mr. Martin in a state matter, in a federal matter, acting as an advocate or as a consultant. He is precluded from preparing documentation or representing or advocating on behalf of Mr. Martin or his enterprises to the Seneca County IDA. That's the restrictions of Public Officers Law 73.
Correct.
It has a very, for a person in his position, it has a very narrow application. Apparently you have adopted a different law in the town of Fayette, which is far broader than what Public Officers Law 73 is.
Excuse me, but he...
Okay, let's let Mike Ferrara
speak
for a couple of seconds.
Just one question, and I don't know the public meeting.
Unemployed.
This is, at no time in this tenure, or at least in his recent tenure, was Mr. Aronson a county employee. So that discussion doesn't come into bear.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
okay, Kyle, you had your hand up?
I guess I would ask the county attorney, one, do we know if Mr. Aronson was paid by Mr. Martin immediately after his employment with the IDA? And if so, are there ethics laws or public officers laws that I'm unfamiliar with that might cover that sort of application?
Mr. Aronson indicated to me that he did not receive any compensation from Mr. Martin. He did basically, he was, for lack of a better term, and I've said this before, sometimes no good deed goes unpunished. But he did not receive compensation. There was a discussion, there was an offer made after the initial contact of a very limited nature, and Mr. Aronson chose not to follow.
Are there ethics laws or public officers laws that a payment in that sense would be in violation of?
So long as Mr. Aronson was not being compensated for appearance before the Industrial Development Agency.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Cindy, you were ready to speak.
You know, I think that just bringing it out to light, I've said enough. And again, I think it all speaks for itself, quite honestly.
Yeah. Discuss anything. If not, we can adjourn. Anybody want to adjourn?
Special order of the day. Motion.
Okay. Second in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned. Okay, thank you, everybody. Very good meeting. A little longer than usual, but that's all right.